No, that's not the word. So if there's like an artist that's like amazing, you know, I think there's a way to connect it with the right people who may not necessarily like get that, but if I can translate, no, this is the idea, this is sort of this person does this, this, and this, and I think it would be cool because of this. You know, I can sort of be
the mediator,
the
almost
mediator.
like the interpreter.
We should get started on that. First things first, Lena, aka Lena Mozzhelina. Is that your name?
Yes.
Is that your real name?
That's my real name.
Your real name is Lena Mozzhelina.
Yes, but
How do you say it?
it sounds a little bit different in Russian.
How do you say it?
Lena
Lena
Mozzhelina.
Mozzhelina. Okay, cool.
Really good.
Lena Mozzhelina.
Da.
Da. Cool. So before we get started, Lena Mozzhelina, do you mind letting everyone know what you do, who you are, kind of a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I create products for your self-care rituals under name Lena's Lavender Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in Portland, Maine. Love that sweet town.
Amazing city.
And I'm originally from Russia. So
It's a little bit about you.
There you go.
I feel like this is like a classroom thing. It's not though. So I met you in Portland this past summer, right? Spring of last year. I was living in Portland and we were doing like a speakeasy, which was really super dope.
It was a savior during the hard times.
And the way that you found out about that was through your friend
Yulia. Yes.
Who is a friend of one of my friends,
Yes.
Willard. Shout out Waylon.
Yeah.
I do have a friend Willard, but shout out Waylon. But that summer was really cool, and I would like to talk about it. Sort of sort of things we did. It was during the pandemic, basically. For anyone who doesn't know, we started a speakeasy in a map shop in Portland.
In a basement.
In the basement of a map shop, which was really cool. We had a sort of interesting reoccurring cast of characters. Not only the people that were there, but the guy who owned it, this Leo, obviously.
And his cat.
And his cat, Buddy, who was cool. And his on and off girlfriend, Sherry. He's 75. They're still dating. It's hilarious.
She's cute.
But we had a lot of fun. It was a super fun summer. And we got to know each other basically through that. And I found out that you made products. I actually have one of your masks around here.
And an eye pillow.
And then that's the first thing you gave.
Yeah.
You gave me is it a lavender eye pillow?
Lavender eye pillow with some other herbs and crystals and some
crystals
essential oils. Yeah.
Wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. It's right next to my bed.
Well, that's where it should be.
So how did you get into that? How did you what was your sort of path into, because you also do like CBD
products, yes, the salves and oil roll-ons and anything you can apply on your body. CBD bath bombs, those are my favorite because they really get you so relaxed.
So how did you get into that?
I've always been crafty. My mom is really crafty, and I think it kind of got passed on to me. Love for photography from my dad, and love for crafts and sewing from my mom.
Nice. And
I was working at this amazing shop in Portland that I'm currently working at as well. It's called Benchimimi. And the owner, Hillary, asked if I could make an eye pillow for the store, like to sell there. And I had no idea how to make it. I just looked it up, made my first couple prototypes, and it kind of started from there. I just started making stuff with lavender. That's where the name comes from, because I feel like that was my first steps into establishing myself as an artist and crafter.
Nice.
And now I started making body products simply because I would start making it for myself, because I'm a big fan of self-care and treating yourself to some good stuff. And so I started making it for myself. Through word of mouth, a friend would ask to make for them as a gift, and so on. And once again, thanks to Hillary, she found out about it, started carrying my lines, and it just slowly started building up.
Nice. And so was it like, is it something that you started sort of for yourself, and then you sort of you were saying people would ask you, or like, because I know that I asked you to make me a mask, and you put like a little pillow in it, which was really cool.
With herbs, yeah.
But was it like, how did the like business part of it, was it sort of a natural transition from just doing it for yourself, other people, and then Blanche and Mimi, is that the name of the store?
Yes, absolutely. It was just like that, a kind of classic scenario that I just started making something for myself, like as far as creating eye pillows with other different herbs and crystals. That's just something that I customize for myself to maximize the benefits of the relaxation, use it during meditation as well. And just through friends asking to make for them, then next step would be stepping up to Blanche Mimi. And I realized with the amount of work that I do that I could start something.
What goes into so you put lavender, that was your original thing. I'm sure you've sort of branched out into different types of herbs. I'm not super familiar on it, but is it something that you've sort of, because I know you're a creative person, you have a creative mind, and you can sort of put things together in a creative way. But is there some sort of underlying mindset or methodology of sort of how you're putting these things together? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Well, first of all, I do believe in energy, and that you can transfer the energy to the objects you touch. So, first of all, for myself, being in a nice, relaxed state, I know I'm making something that will transfer to the person that is using this product. And so mindfulness started coming into this. Then using different herbs and crystals to enhance the experience of that. So ideally, I think it's just to promote self-love and meditation, incorporating into your daily life. So making things that are pleasant to use. Okay. So it gets easier and more habitual, and eventually it like becomes your lifestyle.
I understand. So it's less of this does this and this does that. It's more of this is what you respond to, and this is sort of the energy that you put in, and someone sort of maybe perceives that energy and takes it in themselves. Is that correct? Maybe.
Yeah. Definitely in some way, but there, the physical product of it will
have its own energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this weekend you came up to the city, and you've been to the city before? New York City, we'll call it Manhattan. You've been here before.
Yes, I've been here before, but I'm always grateful for the insider perspective. So thank you for hosting me and showing me around.
Of course.
So I've never had that perspective of the city.
Yeah, and so today we went to the Met. So I want to talk about that. And then yesterday we were walking around. We did some mushrooms, and which was fun. And we walked I think 3 miles. Something like
about
that.
So.
And that was really cool.
We went to another museum as well.
What was that? That was the Museum of Design?
Art and Design. Yeah,
that was really cool and kind of weird.
Yeah,
but today was really cool. We went to the Met.
And you saw the exhibition that you've never seen before, which
it was amazing.
I'm glad that we got from that, and we avoided a huge line into museum.
Totally.
Which was so refreshing, because all we did is just kept walking, and we got to that wing that no one like very few people were
Yeah, totally.
going into. So we started from that wing, and that was Roman and ancient Greek.
Yeah. So what was the thing that
Art.
you most enjoyed? Well, I'll tell you about the thing I most enjoyed. I want to know what some of the pieces that you kind of enjoyed.
Sure.
Seeing at the Metropolitan.
I like that we started with the historical ancient art, simply because it is really interesting to see the development of art through time. So we started with ancient times and then progressed into some modern, like I want to see some modern photography and
you sort of ran off
and
too.
so
You kind of went on your own little thing.
I had to.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm like,
all of a sudden I looked around, you were not around. I was like, okay, we'll find each other.
yeah, totally.
But I like watching also intertwining of cultures. Like when I was looking at the Greek culture, I really didn't know that so much of their art was influenced by Egyptian art, and they were mimicking it in a way. And that was really interesting to see. And I really loved sitting in that hall.
Just people watching?
Just
That's
people
my favorite thing.
sitting in that hall of ancient Egypt. With water
and
around you and the huge
thing.
lights.
Yeah, totally.
You can see the trees blooming outside, and it was just so peaceful and also grand. Like I felt so small in the amount of history that was present in that room.
That's how I feel in that museum in general. It's like you just walk every hall. There's like, so my go-to spot, we talked about this. I go to like the second floor, which is, it's like European paintings mostly, and then so on the second floor there's like an American wing. It's like early, I don't know, European paintings or whatever. That's my favorite. There's like sort of where like the Van Goghs, Picassos, Velasquez. But I discovered, like we walked into like the Greek and Roman, and I also think that's super interesting, this like collaboration, like it's like the Mediterranean kind of area where like Greek, Roman, and Egyptian sort of come together. I think that's really cool. I'm definitely going to go back and do some like drawing, And then so the other thing that I thought was really cool was these mosaics. There was like, you know what a mosaic is? It's like little squares. And they did like portraits, like Roman portraits in mosaics, like with light and sort of painting it. It was really cool. So we did that. And we just wore ourselves out, and then we came back here. But yesterday we were walking around, and it was really cool to go to the park. It's really cool to like show people around the city, and see new things myself. And we got to, the energy in the city is just amazing. Like seeing people talking, doing
playing
whatever.
chess and
ping pong or whatever, biking. Yelling, sleeping, doing whatever they're doing. But I wanted to talk about that experience if we could. I want to talk about the mushroom experience. Do you mind?
No, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So we basically took like what would be like 2 stems of mushrooms, right? And walked around, which is kind of interesting. But I was talking to you when we went into the Museum of Design. I was like really locked into this mindset of like what I was thinking about when I was looking at this art, and I want to try to explain it a little bit more and see if you can sort of work it out with me, right? So we were in the museum, and we're seeing like what was the exhibit? It was like kind of like metalworking.
It was the stained glass.
It was stained glass, but there was also some like metal kind of framing on it, right? But it was mainly stained glass. And I had this idea of this museum or this specific exhibit was like an exercise in like practice. It was what I was thinking was I'm sort of thinking about this process of what I'm looking at and thinking about like how this is kind of very singular, this one specific idea of this person using this metal and whatever they're doing just to create this thing that I can sort of just look at, or not just look at, but look at. And it really like, it gave me this idea of like, it was an exercise in discipline or something. Does that make sense to you, or no? So if for example, if this person was to do this thing, he did it like 1,000 times or whatever, small, big, but he was just doing one thing, and it served this one purpose, you know? Does that make sense? You following me? Or
I
no?
think so.
So, however interesting or cool it is, it's really just a byproduct of this discipline and practice. And that's how I, maybe it was just that's because that's sort of my personal bias of how I think about the art that I create, which is the byproduct of the work that I do is art or whatever, because I try to make art or something. And so I want to know, do you kind of, do you feel like that? Like, what is your approach to like sort of creating things? So that would be my approach. The byproduct of what I practice is like art, you know? Like art comes out like that painting over there. I just practiced a bunch of different things for a long time, and those are some of the things that I sort of compiled all of this practice into.
So, help me understand. So you think what we saw were just practices?
Yeah. It was just like not just practices, but just an example of discipline, so to speak. Like an example of, I took all of these ideas and I want you to hold this specific idea. It's hard to explain, sort of. I was also on mushrooms. There was a lot of stuff that was very funny to me that I couldn't verbalize. But I specifically remember, and then you said to me, like, it's interesting, like how you think about that. So I'm trying to sort of dig into like how other people like approach art. We were talking about style. We were talking about, expression and things like that. And sort of part of what I'm doing with this podcast is to sort of dive into sort of like artists' sort of journey, purpose, how they approach the whole kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I want to know, like, basically how if you were going to make, you made me a mask. I guess that was sort of a commission thing. But when you're approaching, say, your style or something like that, what's going through your mind? If I could ask you that.
Sure. I think it's definitely a multitude of things. And I've noticed with myself that right now, at this moment in my development as an artist, a lot of it is fueled by business as well. So I have to consider all kinds of factors, how to balance it out, how to make it a product that sells, but also have it be a signature of me.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So it's a dual approach, and I know it in a way. I don't want to think that it limits me, but it shapes a certain style right now, because I know that I'm in a way adjusting myself to the market. But when it's free time and free art expression of any, free of any other concerns, but just creating, I think I do enjoy very much creating something that I can use.
Yeah.
Like that I can apply.
Yeah, agreed. And that's how I feel too. So I didn't feel like it was a waste or anything, but it just seemed very frivolous. And we were talking about some ways that maybe we could use it, you know, and maybe that was the idea. So it was like sort of, I was just going through those steps.
Because you instantly start thinking about creating a window, like something very functional that
would be nice for.
Would include that design, for example, a part of that design.
Yeah.
So it's a functional thinking.
Totally.
You know, how to apply this art into your regular life.
Right. And so I think it's interesting what you said, like the parameters, like having the limit of you sort of have to cater to whatever the powers that be. Do you think that's a bad thing, a good thing?
No, it's neither. It depends on you as a person. I'm not persuaded very much by what I think is expected of me. I'm more so, I'm still creating a very authentic Lena product. It's just, I have guidelines that help me. It almost like gives me an idea of what direction I want to take this art. But it doesn't change. It doesn't really change of what I create and how I create it. But if you are so worried about what other people think and satisfying their expectations, that it can turn bad just simply because you're not creating an authentic product.
Yeah.
But if also you absolutely don't care what others think or don't adjust to your market, then it also can be bad.
Totally.
Just because I'm always interested in producing some income. So if you're very categorized, like, you might miss out on opportunities.
Totally. And I was talking to a guy, the first episode of this podcast, we were talking about basically how he just sort of sees it as a part of his life. Like everything he does is make art.
Was it the hot sauce guy?
It was, no, it wasn't the hot sauce guy. It was the painter. His name was Katiz. He's a guy from Harlem. He's a painter, but he was sort of talking about how it's like an expression of you have to make money or something, like that's part of it. And so how you do that is, you know, how he does it is by making art, selling paintings, you know, and that's just sort of like, but he also like has style, and his house is probably nice, and you know what I mean? So it's sort of like it's just like an expression of yourself, and that's one way to do it. And I think that's a really interesting approach, which sort of is on the other end of the spectrum of how I felt about what we saw the other day, you know? And not to say that it was, but that's just sort of how I interpreted it at that moment, you know? And so I think it's really interesting to think about sort of both sides, but also if you didn't have to worry about making money, would you, like, if you had free parameters, would you make better or worse art, you know? What do you think?
I know in myself, I did an experiment.
Should we get a little bit more of this?
Yes.
Tell me about your experiment.
Okay. During the pandemic, I had a chance to absolutely not worry about whether I make money on my creations or not, because my life at that time did not depend, my well-being did not depend on how much I sell of it. Or it was a moment that I just got sick of it. It kind of killed the creativity within me.
What killed
trying
the creativity?
to have a pressure of your product delivering a certain amount of income. Right? So during the pandemic, I had a chance to get rid of that mindset and have other things going on that bring me money, and just leave the creativity for what it is. And just because I think I started making this all kinds of products for myself, I have a really high standard of what I want to use. So when I didn't think about selling it, I was still making it and with all the love and intention and creative process that I would put in if I were to sell it, just simply because that
was your standard.
That's the standard I go for, and I wouldn't want to treat myself any less than what I'm putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for a fact when I was creating something for pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
it was just as good as if I were to make it
to sell.
To sell.
Interesting. Do you think you can get?
I had.
Do you think you can get lost in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what happened after a while?
Can we? Cheers.
I'm having such a great time. I was nervous at the beginning, but no, this is
it's
a lot
chill.
of fun.
We're drinking. We're talking.
Connecting. Yeah.
Connecting, yes. And it's good to have you. I'm glad you could come down. We've had good times in Portland. We got a good crew, and now you come to New York, hanging out on my stoop. So
the stoop is amazing.
Hanging out in Brooklyn.
I love. Yes, that was fantastic, and one of my favorite things is to take a shower with the window open so I can see the city.
Yeah, that's the best. You just put your head out. Yeah. But you were saying, yeah.
So, without the motivation of selling it, it kind of, for some reason, made me lose inspiration as well. It fires me up when I see my product go and I have the feedback.
Yeah.
It inspires me. It's like when you're presenting music. I feel like musicians or performers, they feed off of that energy.
Yeah.
So I need that. I need to
have some purpose.
I need to see the process of it distributing and people enjoying what I'm making to fuel that creativity.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the business part of it anymore. I found a great balance. I just need to make sure I have lots of freedom and have really good boundaries with the business side. So they work as a symbiosis versus like one overpowering another.
Yeah. I think that's really important. You know, a lot of my friends that I see being successful are sort of. I think you have to bring those worlds together. You know, for it to work properly. You can't have one without the other. You know, sometimes you see artists that are just, you know, they're doing it for the love or whatever. But you can't. If you can't support yourself, then you can't continue to sort of do that thing. So I think that's, you know, to find a balance is important. And you were telling me right before we got started about how you have some fans. You have fans. You have people fangirling over you. Can you tell that story on the air?
Okay.
Yeah.
Humble.
Yeah, humbly
Humble
brag. She's got fans out in Portland, out in the Cape.
Yeah, I was working at Blanche and Mimi, and so this woman at the register that was buying at least 5 of my different products, and the owner, Hillary, pointed out that I'm the one who makes all that, and she just screamed hello, and she said she feels like she met a celebrity. She felt so lucky, and she asked to take a picture and follow me on Instagram, just because she's been buying my product since I started carrying at Blanche and Mimi, which is now a little over a year.
Nice.
And she just couldn't stop praising it and telling me, like, I keep coming back for gift for myself, and I just really
cool.
Glad to meet you. I surprisingly didn't get overwhelmed or nervous, which I would assume I would. I felt really confident, and you know, because I truly believe in what I make, and it's not a surprising effect, because that's how I feel when I use it.
You're like, this is amazing.
So when she was giving me compliments, I was like, I'm really glad that I got you to feel that way.
Yeah, you got the message.
Because that's the point of it. And I just walked away because I had nothing else to say and I had other things to do. But it felt wonderful, and at the same time, just more like calmly reassuring that I'm moving in the right direction.
Nice. That's nice. And so you got into the store's called Blanche and Mimi. That's in Portland, and you said you've been there for a year.
7 years, but
Oh,
I've been working there as on the floor as a sales, but she started carrying my cosmetics specifically about a year ago.
Oh, nice. So that's like a progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you just worked there before? You were just...
I was working as on the floor, working with customers, sales, not sales, but as
like an associate,
retail associate.
Totally.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore this place. Hillary, the owner, Hillary Sinauer, she's been like a mentor figure to me, and she keeps pushing me to create different things, gives me ideas, and asks for things to make. So it definitely, she's been like an engine.
Nice. A what?
An engine.
An engine? Yes. All right, fair enough. And how long have you been in Portland?
Since 2010.
2010.
So 11 years.
11 years.
In the States, 13 years.
Do you think you'll stay in Portland?
Yeah. I've had time.
It's Portland, Maine.
For a long time. Yeah, I have been dreaming about living other places.
Like, other places.
Seattle. Seattle was my...
Yeah. But Portland is a really cool city.
But I just, you know what?
I think it's one of my favorite cities in the United States. I feel like I was just running away mentally from something that was bothering me, and it felt like it would be easier to just live in a new place than stay unhappy here. But I realized that happiness is not on the outside. It's on inside. Yeah. And as I chose to start enjoying my life in Portland and truly be grateful for such a beautiful place I live in, all kinds of good things started happening to me. I met amazing friends in the sailing community. Wow. And started sailing. So I started picking up some sailing. My friend Will Horseman was teaching me sailing, and I just fell in love with that. That is my vibe. I love being in the ocean. What do you like? Oh, you like
the wind. I love the ocean, and I love the feeling that on a sailboat you are fueled by the natural forces, and you navigate. You feel humble, and at the same time really strong, because you're not fighting, but you're navigating
with nature.
With nature and the elements and the moodiness of the ocean and unpredictability of Maine weather. Totally. Just reminds you how powerful nature is and how little you are in this world. But at the same time, it gives you confidence and a sense of
if you know what you're doing.
I think if you know what you're doing, and you can weather the storm, and you can come out on the other side of it when it's sunny, and then there's a maybe magical rainbow
and a nice
after the storm, and docks somewhere on a peaceful island.
So how long have you been sailing?
Well, my first experience was 2 years ago. Okay. And ever since, as soon as the season starts, I try to find people.
And you have to learn the knots, and have you learned that stuff? Or when because I went sailing once, and a guy took me, and he taught me there's maybe some knots you got to learn, and the mast, maybe you have to swing it or something. Have you gotten there yet? Yeah. You totally.
I'm getting it.
Golden.
It's slowly, but I'm really enjoying the process.
Nice. And so, what are you go out like Portland? I don't know.
Casco Bay.
Casco Bay.
So there are so many islands, and nature is incredible. Totally. And when you get to see it, where it's some places where it's untouched, it's really beautiful, but other places where the World War
II? Yeah.
constructions were built, and there were bases, and
Like
you
Fort
can see
Gorgeous?
the towers. The tower on Jewel Island is my favorite, that you can climb on and get the view of the bay. But
I've
it
never
just,
been out there at
oh
all.
my goodness, it's
gotta
such
take
a
me out
strange
there.
energy. It's a wild surroundings.
Nature?
The
So
nature
paint
is
a
just
picture
so-
for me.
Lots of bushes and trees.
Are we on an island?
We're on an island.
Big
right?
island?
No, not
Small
a big
island.
island. It's a small island. I'm not sure how long it would take you to walk across, but it is kind of elongated.
Uh-huh.
And there are camping spots all around the island.
Wow.
And you can walk around the trails there and see the nature in the ocean. But on some, like including Jewel Island, on some islands there are those war structures, watchtowers, and basements of other buildings and some other structures, and they all have this the weirdest energy. Like you
Like
can
war
feel,
energy?
you can feel strange. Like you can definitely just feel not at ease.
Uh-huh. Really?
Maybe it's just me, but I was like,
Because
some of them were so dark and look like, I don't know, like a smokehouse. Something just
really? So like small structures and forts and stuff? Wow.
I don't know about forts, but definitely those watchtowers.
Uh-huh.
And
they're sort of like tucked into nature? And that's weird.
yeah, so you walk in this beautiful wilderness, and all of a sudden there's like
Damn.
an
And
old,
I think I heard...
and it's really like the construction of it is so
just weird.
it's just like everything is so like solid and heavy and does not, and I wish I had a way to describe that style of architecture.
I heard the only thing that
Utilitarian
maybe just like very structural and just does this thing,
right?
Yeah. The only thing that I know about the history of any of those forts is Fort Gorgeous. Do you know that
Tell
one?
me.
That one's off of like the Eastern Prom. Apparently they built that, and so this might give you some ease. They built it, and I don't think it was ever used. Like by the time they finished building it, like the war was over or whatever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So it couldn't have been World War II, was it?
Well,
Maybe
I think there were two. There were structures. There are structures of the First War or the Civil War, and then there are structures of the World War II.
But I think I did read that about that sort of like pentagonal.
Have you ever been on?
No, I've never been. I went to Peaks Island, which is off the coast of Portland, but that's it. Walked on the beach there.
Have you? Did you go to the Battery Steel on Peaks Island? That tunnel.
No. What? Tell me about that.
So there is a tunnel structure on Peaks Island, kind of inland, and once a year. Last year we didn't have that, but once a year for so many years now, they host an event, art and performance event, in that tunnel.
It's a tunnel.
And around it.
On Peaks Island?
Well, it's like, it's not a tunnel that goes underground. It's
like a hallway?
It's a tunnel on the ground. So like almost like a cylinder.
Like an airplane hangar or something?
Shape. And you just large concrete cylinder that's covered with a little bit of dirt, so there's growth on top of it.
Wow.
So you can climb on top of it and walk around.
Really?
And sit and look over the bay.
Whoa.
And go down, and inside it's like a really dark tunnel, and it has multiple little rooms, and people make installations and art inside those rooms.
Wow.
And sometimes it's a performance art, sometimes it's hanging stuff, and it's a lot of it lit by candles. So the pathway is lit by candles, because there is you can't see anything.
No
It's
electricity.
like no electricity. It's really dark. There usually is a band or two playing
That sounds
in the
awesome.
end, each end of the tunnel, and at the end of the night they would have a huge fire. Usually it's a lot of fun, and it's in the fall. It's gorgeous around the
Damn.
leaves changing and all. It's a special event, but lately I think, as far as I know, the management has changed, and it just one isn't the same. The people who are in charge of organizing
the event, the event specifically.
Yeah, and it's called Sacred and Profane.
Sacred and Profane.
Yes.
Okay.
Sacred and Profane. And the last year, a few years ago, when I was in it, that people said it wasn't the same, and we didn't have it in 2020. And so we'll see what happens this year. Maybe it'll be a revival of energy, because people will be craving something like that.
Something new. I've been...
maybe I will let you know when it happens, so you can make it. I think you would really like it.
Yeah. The only thing that I've heard about that was that they did like a Sunday reggae thing. Like it's whack.
No, it's just not.
It's not that
it's
cool.
not. It's not quite as. There's just something that happens during.
Yeah, it's
summer.
it's like a one-off kind of a yearly annual event, and everyone comes together. What do you think about the art scene in Portland? How do you feel about that?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask.
I mean, you live there. It's you know what's going on, kind of.
It would be nice to hear some, I mean, it would be nice to hear a perspective of people who are directly involved in that. That they, I can only perceive it from, I don't know, maybe a third person perspective. That maybe there is definitely a desire for some more space that is not as sterile. So maybe.
What do you mean?
Not as sterile? Not like a gallery that is really sterile, just like really formal or classical, but more so underground space that is a little bit less rigid and can be multi-faceted, so different performances can happen in different installations. And
you think there needs to be...
There needs to be a space like that, or maybe more than one. Because the last, I would space the
what?
System Laundry.
Oh.
I don't know if you've...
No, I haven't
gone to any events there. But anyways, I think it's just a craving for community space that is very creative and artistic and open to public more.
Why don't you think that exists more?
I think the dynamic in the city is changing, and artists are having a harder time with the city.
Yeah. And
what kind of crowd is around. Just not enough stimulation, not enough competition.
Yeah. That's sort of what I think. I think there's like a bit of a
it's like a little stale energy, unfortunately.
So
at times I don't want to. I love the.
It's a great vibe, and
First Friday art walks are.
Yeah, it's geared up to be like a great place. The thing that I like an observation that I would make is it's sort of like it's so small that you can't. There's like. You can be competitive, but you can't be dominant, It's like there's like a everyone is all inclusive, everyone's included kind of feel, where if you do it, you're sort of in the club regardless of if it's good or not, you know what I mean? Whereas like, for example, here in New York, it's like that there's no like, it's either good or it's like, or it's out, basically, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a bit stifling, when you don't have someone to say like, no, that's bad. Like New York, someone would be like, no, that's just trash. Like, you probably wouldn't say that to someone in Portland.
Because they just don't have enough time to waste on something that they don't see like
Yeah.
it's more maybe in a way there is a little bit of soul loss in this too, you know, when it's like really
What do you mean? There's a bit of soul lost in
soul loss in the rigid when it's so competitive that some things get overlooked. Perhaps they just need a little more polishing, like the diamonds in the rough. I get missed out sometimes.
Totally, and that's a dynamic that I do see in New York, where it's like on the opposite side of the spectrum, everyone is so competitive that there is no sort of sense of community, where it's like, you know, everyone here is amazing. Everyone here is competitive, like being super competitive with each other, but they're not like, you know, it's like, you listen to my thing, or, you know, everyone's promoting their own thing, you know, selfishly, you know, whereas in Portland, it's like, it's my friend, you know, we're all friends and kind of thing. Like, this is my friend, she's my friend, we're all friends. We're all just going to share each other's stuff, you know? So it's just interesting to see those two dynamics happen, you know, because I spent a bit of time in Portland, and I've spent a bunch of time in New York trying to figure out, you know, sort of like what makes like an artistic community tick, you know, because that's sort of part of my journey. Yeah,
I have an idea.
You have an idea?
My really good friend and an artist, Abbeth Russell. Love her. Her and I had this conversation about being a good, talented artist in a small scene like Portland. And we came to a conclusion that it is wonderful to have a base town like Portland. You just have to get out and travel in order to keep experiencing something new, being exposed to other culture,
100%.
being potentially have a critique from someone else
outside
of your fan base, right? And so Portland has this vibe of being a great base for you to have, because it still has enough culture going on that it keeps you going. But you, at the times when you feel like you're hitting that stale moment or just complacent, you get on a tour.
Yeah.
Pack up and go elsewhere and present your work somewhere else, or look at someone else's
100%.
work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Portland is a great city. When I go there, I feel like I can be pretty free, and like I was saying, everyone's gonna be like pretty accepting, you know. No one's gonna be like, nah, you know. Like, so it's a good city to go to, and you can try stuff, and it is very artsy. Like, a lot of people are doing art, so you can like, oh, I'm doing art too, and you know, oh, cool. You can sort of meet everyone, meet all the artists in town pretty quickly. You know, you can really like tap in, and it's, you know, because of how like nice people are, and especially during the summer, the weather is really nice. It's like kind of a really enjoyable place to be, you know. But I think it is important to like branch out, you know, to like, if you can have that dynamic where you can sort of do your work in Portland, bounce ideas off people if they think it's cool, and then go out and try that out in the world. And I think that's totally 100%. And that's what I would love to do in Portland. And I think they're, you know, with the right, so the other thing I think with Portland is like, there's some there is community, but it's not like honed in properly, you know. I feel like there needs to be like a hub that's cool.
Yes, that's exactly what I've been saying. A community place that can host art and also just host groups of people socializing events and and such. Hub. Yeah, like, what a good word.
You know, because it's like, this person's doing this thing, this person's doing that thing. It's all really cool. But I don't really see, there's no place that I can go to in Portland and find like the cool stuff that's happening, you know?
Yeah.
Like, where's the website? Where's the newsletter? Where's the, like, who's
there is a newspaper, but it
what's the newspaper?
The Phoenix.
Is it?
Yeah.
But who reads newspaper? When was the last time you read a newspaper? You know, like, why is there no, like, there could be.
I mean, they do have an online presence as well. I feel like I rely a lot on Facebook events.
Yeah.
That's the only way I use that platform.
Portland Nightlife. Is that what you're on?
Portland Nightlife fucking sucks.
That's got trash.
Oh my god. It just
no. There's a Facebook group called
some,
Facebook Nightlife. I mean Portland Nightlife. That's why I said that. But no, the nightlife doesn't suck.
No, well, it was the only reason I'm saying this is because I've witnessed it being so much better and more vibrant and more diverse.
Would you like a bit more?
Yes, please.
What are we drinking? Kava?
Well, it is a similar style, bubbly, but it is French.
You got this on Third Ave, Second Ave?
Well, yeah, it was
Produced in
second.
France?
It was on Second Ave, and there were two delightful people that were helping me out.
Nice. And they clearly knew you were a tourist.
Oh, yeah. They knew right away that I was visiting.
Cheers.
Cheers. Maybe because I was wearing sandals. No one wears sandals in New York.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy.
After all this walking, wearing those comfortable sandals, I felt so good.
I've seen people walk around Bushwick barefoot. It's terrible. I've seen people walk around barefoot. I mean, not non-homeless people.
And I think from yesterday when we went to get ramen, I also chose to wear sandals. I knew I was feeling awkward wearing sandals in the city, but my feet were hurting so much from walking that it gave me a chance to take a break from it and then put my boots back on for the night out. Woo, woo.
We went to Maracuja.
Oh, that was such a great experience.
That was dope.
Definitely shout out to Maracuja.
Shout out Maracuja in Williamsburg. We tried to get into another bar. They wouldn't let us in. The Couge,
which was totally a blessing.
Yeah, totally a blessing. The Couge welcomed us with open arms.
And
literally, the lady.
With open arms, big hugs. Right? There were like some decent hugs.
Yeah. We never even got that lady's name. Unfortunately.
But I know she works on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
That we do know. She works on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Yeah, that was super cool. But you were saying the nightlife in Portland?
Yeah,
it used to be super
I just
cool?
wish it had a little, once again, competition. Not necessarily that I'm competition not for them, but just for you to choose from something.
Yeah.
There felt like for the last few years there was never a choice of to go to this place or this place, because one thing would be dominant, and when you're dominant, like you don't have you don't have a choice. Like if you want to go some place to dance, there's only one place to go dance, and
everyone's there.
And everyone's there, and there's it just feels like there's just not enough diversity in the nightlife in Portland. And now I don't even know where the music will be happening, but I know the Urban Farm Fermentary hosted a few outdoor social distance electronic music events, and they were pretty great. They were in late fall
last year,
late fall.
Wow.
With barrels, with fire in the barrels that people can warm up to, get some kombucha.
Wow.
And listen and dance to some great
nice Urban Farm Fermentary.
Urban Farm Fermentary. So I think that would be
a
new venue for some dancing.
That's down like on like sort of Kennebec or whatever.
Yeah, it's is it Bayside?
Area? Somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Dope. I haven't really spent that much time down there. There used to be a little party spot like across the street from that. Like after hours, you know.
Zero Station?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So who is there any? So I want to talk about some of the artists that you're really liking in Portland. You know,
would it be biased because I love the people?
No.
All right.
Well, I'll
Well,
allow
there.
it.
All right. There's definitely a few of my favorite artists in Portland, and it makes me so happy to say their names because they're also really good friends. So I adore them as people and know them on intimate level as friends. And I also, on a separate vibe, I'm a fan of their art. And it is Abbott Russell. I absolutely love her art. She does unique oil paintings and drawings, and she started this line of clothing that she makes now.
Wow.
Multi-talented person. We have collaborated. That was my favorite collaboration. We have collaborated on creating eye pillows for her family members, and we used old fabrics from her grandmother for each of them, so that each member of the family would have a connection.
Is it different type of fabric? Or?
Different types of fabrics, all coming from her grandmother who passed away. And we studied each character, and I made a unique blend of herbs and scents that would match that character. And I would also pick fabrics that would match that character. And so each one of them was very individualized. And also Abbott created this beautiful patches of her art that we put sewn onto the eye pillows. So they just came, there was a beautiful collaboration of something that she wanted to let people know that she cares and remembers about them. And it was in the beginning of the pandemic. It felt like the dark times, and it was really sweet of her to think of that, and we shipped them all to these people.
And she does
but she's a beautiful
multi-talented
artist. But I think her unique oil paintings are what she's famous
she have an Instagram
for. And she's also Abbott Russell
on Instagram.
She is also a part of the band Bumbling Wuhas, so she's also a musician.
Nice. What does she play?
She plays harmonica, she sings, she's been playing keyboard and learning guitar as well.
Wow.
And drums. Oh, this woman.
She's just going after it. Whatever. I like it. That's how I am too.
I'll
do everything. I wanna learn at least a little bit about how to do everything creatively.
So her art, definitely check it out. I think it's deep, it's interesting, it's unique.
She got the Abbott Russell, or she just got it's just at Abbott Russell.
I can look it up on my phone if that would the technicality of it would be important.
Is it something?
But I think if you just type in Abbott Russell,
something will pop up.
Something will pop up.
Follow Lena Mozzhelina. She follows Abbott Russell, and then we'll make Abbott in the second degree of separation.
And the next artist would be Irina Skorniakova.
I've met Irina.
Irina is also from Russia, but she does different mediums, and the last one I saw her working with some natural elements like earth elements. Irina, I'm sorry if I can have a language to describe your art, but
multimedia
I would say some graphic work,
like graphic design, computer graphics. No,
she does something unique.
Like
she does something really unique, and I know she does the grid that she's famous for, the little rectangles in almost like a mosaic formation. She did this amazing stick and poke on my arm, so that is her design, her art.
Yeah, you got it there. There it is.
And I'm just happy that we can speak the same language when we spend time together. She also loves nature. She works as a carpenter on Peaks Island.
Tight.
Badass.
That's badass. Sweet. Irina?
Irina Skornikova.
I've met Irina a couple
And
of
then
times.
my third favorite artist in Portland would be my son's father, Travis Grassley. Travis Grassley on Instagram. He works with pen and ink. Ink.
Pen and ink? Yeah.
Is that the style? Right?
Stippling? Like
he does scribbling. He does like miniature. It's his own unique style and technique that he has developed. Instead of like scratchalism, it would be more like a little squiggly lines and layering them to create dimension. He loves feminine silhouettes and some structure, but mostly feminine silhouettes.
Nice.
Very beautiful. I'm a big fan.
Nice. I'm trying to think. It's because it's like, that's the thing. It's like, it's hard to even know what's going on in Portland, because I do meet some people that make some really cool stuff. Like, Portland is a very creative town, but it's hard to like know exactly who's doing what, and you know, there's no showcase of like the underground artists. You know, there's a lot of galleries downtown that show just.
That's
like
exactly what I had mentioned earlier, that we don't have enough this non-traditional spaces.
Totally. And I think there needs to be some sort of like, because like all the bars, however cheesy they are, they're like cool and people think about it, and like graphics, like people have kind of time to make cool graphics, and they know the guy who owns the place. So all right, you make the graphics for this restaurant, or you do this for this person. It's all sort of like everyone knows each other, you know? So there should be that sort of community thing where it's like, but it sort of seems disconnected, you know? Oddly. It's like oddly connected, but oddly disconnected, you know? Because I meet people, oh, I'm a fashion designer. And then, you know, this person does like...
Have you been to the, do you know Kazim, that owns a Portland Trading Company?
No.
He's a
clothing
designer.
Yeah?
Shout out to Kazim.
Shout out Kazim.
He's
Portland Trading Company?
Portland
Where is that?
Trading Company. It is on, right now, it is on Market Street. So right next to Arcana, there is a parallel. Right next to so there's Thomas Park, and it's on a street after Exchange.
Yeah.
And I think it's Market Street.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And he has a storefront there with the clothing he designs, and someone sews them.
Seamstress, yeah.
Seamstress, yes. And he is also a really big influence on my art, but also his fashion is just absolutely incredible.
So he makes clothes?
He does make clothes, yeah.
Nice. Men's, women's?
Both.
Both. Nice.
Yeah. Travels the world to get inspired for his new collections, and just came back from Mexico.
Ooh.
And his new collection would be inspired by the fabrics, textiles he found, the art and crafts that he found.
Interesting. Try Nuke's Groovy Green, made from green apple, maple, jalapeno, and serrano peppers. Use code TIME, that's THYME, at nukesauces.com for 15% off all your orders. Again, that's TIME, THYME, for 15% off all your orders. Lena Bina.
Test.
Lena Regina.
No.
I
used to have someone doing this thing with the name, and then they start singing Lena Bobina, Bina. I did not like that at all.
No.
Well,
Lena Regina. Regina means queen. In Italian.
Interesting. I love the name Regina.
My sister's name. I have a sister named Regina. So I started doing the Lena Bina Fofina thing, and then I was just like,
Thank you.
Let me chill.
I appreciate it.
So I'm I'm interested. We were talking about your friend Kazim,
Yeah.
and his store,
Mm-hmm.
and so one of the things that I think is really interesting about Portland is like there's so many cool like little indie spots. You know, like everything is a mom and pop. There's nothing that's not a mom and pop shop, kind of, right?
They're
Like
pretty strict about it.
like
There's a few, like the Anthropology,
Urban
Urban
Outfitters.
and West Elm. Those are the big ones.
Yeah. So and there's like the
Oh,
spots.
Athletic.
They have like spots like Electric Buddhas and like
I
the
love Electric
weird Maine. What's it called?
Strange Maine.
Strange Maine. Like
Moody Lords.
I don't know that one.
It's all in the
same
same
block?
line. Some
Yeah, it's really
vintage
cool.
clothing, some records, some
They got like a
handmade
sock
stuff.
store. So, you know, it's just really weird. But I'm so it's like you can stumble upon these spots, and this spot sounds super interesting. Kazim's, he does like, is it like casual clothing? It's probably not like streetwear. It's probably more like dressy.
Oh,
Elegance,
I would say
imagine.
there's definite element of elegance.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that he draws inspiration also from his roots. He grew up in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say contributes to his art.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely elegant, but it is also wearable for everyday life. I own a jacket from him
Mm-hmm.
that, it depending what you wear underneath, can be dressed up or down.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of his pieces are beautiful and elegant, but also are absolutely manageable.
Uh-huh. Nice.
But I think manageable would be a good word. Like, you can easily wear every.
Nice. I'm gonna check it out. It
d-
sounds really
please-
interesting. Yeah,
Please
yeah.
do. I
Kazim,
think, and he is just an amazing person to talk to. He has always so much knowledge to share and have a great conversation.
uh-huh.
He loves to chit chat. Kazim,
Right.
I'm gonna come visit you soon, but when you're in Portland, that's
We gotta have a little party, something like that.
do. And I worked for him for a little while, and one of my favorite parts was to play records. He has a great record collection and a record player in the store, so you just
Oh man, I gotta go and check. This sounds like my type of guy.
absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, totally. All right. So, one thing that just sort of crossed my mind. You said this guy's from Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and Maine is traditionally a very like white place.
Right, absolutely.
You know, and I want to know, have you seen sort of like any sort of transition in Portland, or because there's, so for people who don't know, there's been sort of a people from
New York.
is it New York?
Well, what do you? Oh,
I was saying like people. I was saying so people like from African countries.
Somalia.
Somalia. I had a good
Oh.
friend from like Gabon, like
Mhm.
kind of near Cameroon.
Mm.
So there's like this influx of African people.
Mhm.
You know, have you seen? Because I didn't really know about too much about this. I knew there's like Somalian, a lot of Somalians. Have in your time in Portland, have you seen sort of like any sort of change? Because in my opinion, it's good. It's good for Maine, like to have some diversity and
Mhm.
I think it's mutually beneficial or mutually. It's like there's pros and cons on both sides, but I think it's good for Maine people to have that sort of influence of a different type of culture and perspective. But have you seen sort of any changes happen over the time that you've been there, or has it been relatively similar, the same?
I think the same. I wish I knew more
Yeah.
people in our community that were immigrants.
Yeah. You don't know many people.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. See, when I lived,
And
I lived
think-
there. I knew some people that had come from Gabon, which is like sort of like on the eastern coast of Africa, near the part where it goes like that, sort of like right on that. and like super cool. And I've met some people that not cool, the whole spectrum, you know. But I think it's interesting that dynamic, how that plays into what's happening in Portland, and sort of almost opening people's minds a little bit. Because I think I grew up in a sort of a different part of Maine, which is a little bit more closed-minded. But in Portland, it seems like pretty open-minded, at least to the idea of it, you know, like having different cultures around. That's like pretty accepted and kind of like met with open arms to some degree, you know. But you haven't seen any sort of like more.
I
or
just
less
wish there were more. That they were more artists, more diversity in the artist community.
Yeah. What do you think? So there's an art school in Portland, which that I don't see any, like, for the amount of artists. I'll say this: for the amount of artists that I think in Portland, I don't see enough like great art. You know, I see a lot of people. I don't mean anything by this. Just like sort of like fucking around, like doing like weird stuff for them, which is cool, like an exercise in what we were talking about. But it's like, to what end, you know?
That I believe maybe there's just not enough support from the city.
Yeah.
Once again, the community, lack of community spaces for artists, and just.
Do you think? So you think?
I think a lot of, like, when you become like, I that's my assumption. I just it's just a guess that when you. The lack of not necessarily competitive spirit, but the lack of stimulation potentially draws people out.
Yeah. So what do you think is so you think
to pursue more, like to go elsewhere?
So to have like a storefront in Portland, or this is my approach: have a storefront in Portland, have a place where people can come, exchange ideas. That's sort of has a standard, a quality standard.
Well, let's also talk about your when you were in Portland, when you helped organize the open mic event. Like, even just having something like that was huge.
Totally.
And during pandemic, when people couldn't get together and go see music, you've created something really special with the host of Luna and Kari. You hosted the open mic in your space, and people were able to perform with a very safe environment.
Totally.
It was wonderful. It was like such a great idea. It was just what people needed. But now that like no one like does that, there's like nothing is happening.
Totally. So it feels like, you know, you need. It's just the other thing is like not a lot of resources. Like, people don't really have a lot of money to spend, like, you know, just generally. So that's like a big part of it. There is grants and things, and I think there's ways to, you know, do that. And that's really what I've been doing since I've known about the scene in Portland. I've always had like thinking like, what can I do to organize this? Like, bring this all together to a place where, you know, person comes to Portland, they know they can, like, before they even arrive, they have maybe like an Instagram where they can know this spot, LFK, the ramen spot, the late night sushi spot, Jewel Box, you know, like no one knows about that when they come to Portland if they're visit, like, unless someone tells them, you know. There's not even like, these are the bars that you might like, you know. That's not in the, everyone just goes to the Old Port and then it's just yeah, exactly.
I roll.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some, I mean, like, Lincoln's is cool, but even that you wouldn't even know about. You're not even, no. Nothing down there. What about that old movie theater? Did you ever go to that spot? I went to one of the coolest parties I went to in Portland was at that movie theater on Exchange Street. Not that it was an old school. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I went to a party that went until like 4 a.m. there, like in the heart of the old port.
Very, but they're not your ordinary old port.
Yeah, exactly.
They're an underground old port.
Yeah. So I always because I think Portland could be a great city for like, art, because there's so many creative people. But how do you like organize that in a way where, I don't want to come in and be like, this is how you should do things kind of thing.
This is how we do it.
It's Friday night. But I kind of want to, like, I always, that would be the perfect, like, match, to have, like this, like, come to this small city, but you, like, there's, like, actually cool stuff happening, Like,
well, they do say, I've definitely heard this, and I kind of agreed a little bit, that Portland is an old person city. That is just a lot of the things that are happening in Portland are oriented to satisfy that
like what?
group of people, not the young.
For example,
people.
Like what, for example?
Well, there's not enough late night things happening that would interest young. There's more like there's restaurants and galleries.
Yeah.
Things that are more oriented to old folks, or maybe to where the money is coming from.
But what's the change that needs to happen to create the catalyst for it to become, or will it never? Is it doomed to never become a?
Unless someone passionate about community and art comes in and invests potentially in something like that, to create a community space that used to be a Mac Perry Center, and then there were some other places with a turnstile. Thursdays were a community event, something that people can come in of different backgrounds and different income range and enjoy the art and music.
100%.
And on the times where you're not performing, you can still come in and maybe have, like, maybe you have a group there that you meet up for a group, or you just come in more like an inspiration space that you just sit down, and just being in a creative environment will help you get through something, like a space, a hub, a resource for people to be, and that it's not a bar, nor it's a coffee shop that closes at like 6 p.m.
It's like
something that's later, that can stay open later in the night, and that's not a bar.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, I'm racking my brain because I love Portland. I would love to, like, if I could be like in Portland half the time and in New York half the time, that'd be like, maybe somewhere else for 2 months.
Yeah.
A warm.
For your vacation.
Yeah, or for my inspiration.
Inspiration vacation. Inspiration.
Inspiration. Totally. All right. Cool. Should we wrap this up? I'm kind of getting hungry.
Well, for the listeners out there, can you please tell a little bit about yourself?
Is this an interview on me now? What do you want to know about me?
I want to know when your love for bringing people together has started, because I feel like you have a natural ability, the talent to bring.
Okay, so
we're
going
together.
back in, because I was gonna say I gotta pee and I'm gonna get this drink, but if that's what we're doing, I'm down. Let's get it.
Okay.
Let's get it. I can hold it. What you want? Did you?
Sure. Can you?
Oh. See that? I almost just poured it all over the table. When did my inspiration for bringing people together? What was the question?
Yeah. So that would be.
It was kind of blocking all the chords and stuff, but
I think.
Yeah,
well,
you're all right. You're all right.
No, I get to see.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just part of my thing. So Yeah, I don't know.
What do you do? What if someone were to ask you, like, "Hey, what brings you joy in this life?"
Um, there's a lot of things. I mean,
Five.
I've gotten to the point where I can appreciate every moment, even like past, present, future, all sort of the same. Maybe like I can appreciate it now as if it was now. I can appreciate it now as if it was in the past. And I like appreciate it now if it was in the present. And like all those combinations, like I can sort of sort of feel I don't. It's really hard to explain. What brings me joy in life? I just enjoy being.
Life.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like such a weird puzzle, and what I've like found is that like you have like complete control of it, and not complete control, but you have like just now. You just have pretty much now. This moment and like what's happening in the future is kind of, you can prepare for it and you can plan for it, but it's really what you're doing now that's doing that, you know?
But you're planting the seed.
I'm planting the
Like
seeds
you're
right
pretty
now.
much kind of projecting what you want to happen in some way.
Yeah, and in the past you can't really control that. You can only sort of like see it as some type of indication of something, a lesson or something like that.
I like that.
So I enjoy, I appreciate it stuff all the time. Like all the time I'm like, that's amazing. I saw these two today when we were in Dunkin' Donuts. I saw this homeless guy like praying with another homeless guy. And I was like, that is like, that's iconic. That like not even iconic. That's like so amazing, you know? So like that, I see that kind of stuff all the time, and so I don't know if that's what brings me joy, but what brings me joy, I do like meeting people. I like learning. I think that's my biggest joy, is like learning about something, doing something.
That's where we get
That's where
on
we
the
connect.
same page, because walking around and listening to the language lectures has been such a joy for me this visit.
Yeah.
Honestly,
So for people who don't know,
please.
we've me and
And I
Lena,
love language. That's a thing that I've never experienced the knowledge of language in such depth, even though I started it in college, as I have in this last 2 days listening to
so
his
we've
lectures.
basically been walking around Manhattan, and we've had
Subway.
earpods in the subway, and we've been listening to this book about the history of language, of human language. And I've talked about, probably a couple of times I've talked about this, but it's a great book.
It's a great book.
It's a great listen, you know?
And his talent of narration is just admirable. Like,
Totally. So it's this book about
gets
sort
you
of
right in.
the origin of language and how language actually functions, in a sort of meta analytical way. So that's cool. So you also, you're similar. You like to learn.
That's what brings me joy, for
Totally.
sure. I always say I'm a forever student.
Yeah.
I loved learning about the camera.
Yeah. You got some gems there. I dropped some gems on you. So knowledge darts. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's like learning the camera is also as important as learning about people. When I meet people, I learn. That's me learning about. You're a different type of person. Where's your mind? What are you thinking about? Because I think about what I think about all the time, and it's like it's hard. I just assume you think about the stuff that I think about all the time.
Which, when we ended up talking about some artistic topics, we realized like our brains work very different.
Totally, and it's like you can sort of see the humanity in that way, you know. You can, me learning about myself or about, you know, skill is one portion of it, but also it's as important to have an understanding and sort of like a spiritual, but also like humanitarian. That's as important as like learning the skill of drawing or whatever, you know. So I don't know. I guess that's what gives me joy.
I can
What do you think
tell
gives me
my
joy?
perception.
What's
of
your perception?
what gives you
me
joy is to find an unconventional way to something that makes your brain work. Like figuring something out, how to get it a way that it's beneficial for you, whether it's like even avoiding a fee, for example, where you can. Or,
For example.
That's very creative. That's like that takes a certain type of mind that I see you taking such joy in finding the ways around a system, around something that's conventional, around something that's been like pushed on you, and you're like, nah.
That's totally how I am.
And like you light up when you get an opportunity like that, or when we were looking for the movie earlier, you're like, no, I got this.
I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And you do, and that's what I've noticed in the last 2 days that gives you joy, is to like find an unconventional path and walk it like in with confidence. Yeah. Stride. What's a stride? Like, is there
stride?
Work with stride. Isn't that what would that be? You'd be like, all
walk.
right.
I'm walking with stride. I don't know. Yeah. I you know, I think there has to be. I see myself as someone who has to like be like a translator for, you know, there's sometimes artists who are very so focused on their art that they don't have any concept of anything else, you know? And then there's people who have no idea, like, that are on the other end of the spectrum. And there needs to be some person that's like, you know, the artist, for lack of a better term, could be like the raw material, you know? Like, they're just raw, they're amazingly talented, but it's not like palatable, you know. It's not like definable. No, that's not the word. So if there's like an artist that's like amazing, you know, I think there's a way to connect it with the right people who may not necessarily like get that, but if I can translate, no, this is the idea, this is sort of, this person does this and this, and I think it would be cool because of this, you know, I can sort of be
the mediator, almost
mediator.
like the interpreter is a good.
Yeah, like, and so when originally I went to school for audio engineering, and there's like a role of a producer, and I always found myself, because I knew the skill of audio engineering, but I also worked with a bunch of artists. I was an artist myself. I am an artist, and you know, an artist would say something like, I want it to sound like, you know, warmer, colder, something like that, or like I want it to sound more chill and like, or more vibey or something like that. And if you say that to like someone who, that doesn't really mean anything in the technical world of audio engineering, you know, like what does that mean? And I was the person that would say, okay, you want it like vibier, do you want it to sound like this, like, you know, use the words that they need to use, and then okay, to the engineers, say like, you gotta like add a reverb, you know, do like a EQ here and do that, you know, do all of these things, and then they'll know, the engineer knows what I want. And
language.
Then, yeah, exactly.
Isn't that
language.
a beautiful thing? Oh, you remember in that part, that was my favorite part, and
Tell me about
it's one of the lectures before we're listening right now, and when he was talking about forming the word or something, and he's like, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
It sounded like
What's up?
I forgot the name again.
Chomsky?
No. an artist version of him, the one.
Artist version of This Is Beautiful.
It's really embarrassing. Happy accidents.
Happy accidents.
No
Bob Ross.
Yes, thank you.
Bob Ross.
It just sounded like Bob Ross, very comforting. It's like the way he said it was so genuine. Like something about language, but he saw it as such a beautiful thing, and he's like, "Isn't that beautiful?"
Yeah, it totally is.
Like,
you know,
and, like, yeah.
and that's a big part of like building relationships with people. Is like, you know, it's like being able to communicate with them. Like, we take it for granted. Like, people talk differently. Like, we've been learning from this book. Like, people just talk different. You know, like
dialects, jargon in your, especially not.
Exactly.
That's why I thought about it, because the terms of one profession and you're a whole other profession, and you're translating into a whole other
totally.
Like, just being able to you're a good mediator because you understand the language of performers and you understand the language of
the
technicians.
Totally. And I think that's I'm super interested in people like communicating, how people communicate. That's obviously in like learning about languages and how languages work. But like, you know, you can say something to someone and they can either understand you, they can partially understand you, or they can fully understand you, you know? And like, you know, I was just in Mexico, and it's like, I've gotten to the point in Spanish where I can actually like express myself, and that opens me up to like being able to communicate with people about different ideas, you know, that I wouldn't have normally had these ideas with. And I think that's what I enjoy about it. It's like, can I learn like something from you? And usually if it's someone that's very different, even especially if they speak a different language than you, and you can like communicate with them, that's really interesting. Go on. you got a question.
You said that you had an LSD experience there. Did it open up the language barrier for you? Did it feel like you could understand more or speak more fluently? Like, did it change that at all? Because I do believe sometimes an ability to express yourself is supported by confidence. Like, when you're not sure about yourself, you also can't really express yourself really well. And I wonder if taking acid sometimes would give you a little more assurance, a little more confidence, so you're able to express yourself more freely without those mental blockages. Your speech flows more.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's how you experience it.
Yeah, so so basically the story goes, I'll give a little background. Basically, I met these locals in Cancun, and they basically took me to their spot. They fully embraced me. They were super cool, and we did some acid. We were in their spot. We were like making music and stuff. And yeah, it was so there was one guy who spoke no English. Two out of the 4 people, so half the people didn't speak any English at all, and the other half spoke English. One spoke very well, and one spoke sort of well. And the one who spoke very well was a translator, but he also took acid. So I'm hanging out with one of the guys who doesn't speak any Spanish or doesn't speak any English at all. And so we're talking, and this guy's translating. If most of the time we can sort of like connect and we can talk about stuff, there might be a moment where he's like, "Here, say this to him," you know. But he's doing acid, so he's in and out, and so he's like, he's not really reliable. So we're having this conversation, and we're talking about like. So I felt like we were able to communicate more. We were talking about sort of like how we felt about God, and like, you know, what are the problems in his community and things like that, you know. And it was easy to we could sort of vibe. We were vibing.
I wish you had a podcast with them.
I'm gonna go back and do it. I'm gonna go back. We're gonna go do it back and do a live stream, and I'm gonna go back to Cancun with my gear to this trap house. But one of the I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know if we talked about it, but there was a moment. It was like probably like 3 a.m. I'm in like some house in Mexico. It was just like a bedroom and like a microphone and a little laptop or whatever. It's like 85. We're all shirtless, and we're like listening to music and we're dancing, and we're doing this thing, like where you like pass like the energy, So he was doing that, and then he sent it to his friend, and he would do it, and then we were like doing it. And at like that moment, it was like we're doing this like kind of fun thing, but we're really like exchanging energy, Like do this and send it to him. He dances. He does this thing. Everyone does their own like sort of dance, So I think it's sort of like even beyond the communication, it was really interesting that we were able to communicate. But the fact that
you were communicating without speaking.
Totally. We were communicating.
It was a different type of language.
It was a different type of communication. So we were communicating, through the meetings that we had, which was like my limited Spanish and his limited English. But then but we were talking. We could talk about ideas enough, and that's what's like really important to me. It's like being able to even have a conversation with a person. Like if this Mexican artist, like if I wanted to say I want to do a show like and do like whatever live stream or something in Portland, Maine, like that connection is like just can't be made. He doesn't speak English. I don't know if there's people in Portland, like I have to be the person that sort of like connects those things, and I'm okay to do that. But but it was an interesting experience. That, long story short, I felt like that enhanced our it probably enhanced my ability to speak Spanish a little bit, just because I was more like, but we were also like drinking, and I had been speaking Spanish for days, so it was just like sort of like I had
multitude of factors contributed.
Totally. But that experience of us dancing together and sort of, it was very like, beyond this time and this moment. You know what I mean? It was like,
I love it.
It was super cool. So I want to go back and see him, my boy Neos. He basically gave me like this shirt that has like the spirit animal,
wolves.
The wolf shirt. He said I was in his wolf pack now. I was with that.
And he was like 22.
So I don't even know. There were these young gangster dudes in this sketchy ass neighborhood in Mexico. But it was so cool.
With the big hearts.
Huh?
With their big hearts.
Dude, and it showed me so much about humanity to see that, because at the same time I got like robbed, but not robbed, but like I had to bribe the police. They took money from me, They were the corrupt ones.
You were robbed by the good guys.
Supposedly. And then the people who were supposedly the bad guys, they took me in, and we toured around the Quintana Roo, the state that we were in.
And did you go swimming in those water?
Yes, the cenotes, that were really cool. I gotta go back. Have you been to Mexico?
No, I really want to go.
You're gonna get a. Do you have an American passport?
I am on my way there.
You're on your way there, and then you're off to the races. You can go everywhere.
I know.
Europe, Africa.
I've noticed that people in the States don't appreciate how much they can travel without visas.
Totally.
I've like there are so many countries that you have to get visa to if you're a Russian citizen.
Mm-hmm.
That has been such a norm for me to get a visa. Even the country I was born in, Estonia, I have to get a visa to go visit my grandma. No, my grandma passed away, but to visit my family, my aunts. My babushka, no. My aunt and my uncle and my cousins in Estonia, like I have to get a visa.
Okay.
And now that they're part of the EU, that I have to get a Schengen visa.
Okay. Schengen visa, yeah, I know that. But
for the American citizen, you can travel to most of the world without visas. You just go in and book a ticket. For me
just
to go somewhere, I would have to make an appointment with the embassy, potentially even go to the embassy in New York, just to open a visa, pay few hundreds of dollars for that visa, just to go to visit a country.
Totally. It's a way much more of a process. Like, I could just go on here, book a ticket, and just fly somewhere and show up.
I can't do that. So to go to Mexico, I'm not sure if Russians...
I'm pretty sure everyone can go to Mexico.
Yeah, it must be a visa-less entry. But unless if I need a visa, then I'd rather wait till I get my...
Totally. It's amazing, though. But what I've learned is, like, probably more than 90% of people are really amazing people. And we were talking about it. Everyone just wants to be comfortable, you know. So that's a big part of, you know. I understand that, and some people don't understand, especially in New York. Like, New Yorkers, they're not like, some people just don't care about your comfortability, you know, more than theirs. Whereas in Maine, maybe they care more, you know. But that's what everyone wants, you know. Everyone wants to feel safe. They want, like, food, you know. They want, like,
basics,
you know. And I think if you can understand that, then you can communicate with people. It's helpful if you speak their language. But even, you know, I've had sort of, like, moments with people that I can't even talk to, you know. I've had so many religious talks. These are people that they do speak English, but at 3 a.m., I've had more talks about God with, like, cab drivers. Like, that is quintessential right now.
I actually have met an amazing person who was my Uber driver. Yulia and I met in Las Vegas on Thanksgiving a few years back.
Is that cashed? Both of those done? Cool.
And on a Thanksgiving day, we had a really sweet day. We went for a hike at this beautiful state park. I don't know what it was. Just it was a great hike in nature, just about 15-20 minutes outside of downtown Las Vegas. And on the way back, we called on Uber to get back into town, and while we were waiting, the moon started rising. It was full moon, and it was enormous. It was just so huge, coming out of the deserty night sky. This enormous, gorgeous full moon, just slowly rising. We're in awe, just standing there, watching the surroundings, waiting for our Uber, thinking no one goes into this wilderness to pick up people. We're just two of us. But it was so beautiful, and the person who picked us up ended up being such a unique, spiritual, creative person. And he's like, well, there's no coincidence we're in this car together. And we had an amazing, deep, spiritual conversation while listening to like a high-quality electronic music that just pierces your whole body. Watching the full moon behind us. Yeah. Like, it was...
It's those type of moments.
It was an incredible moment. And I think Yulia and them kept in touch for, like, a few years after.
Wow.
And that was a profound experience.
Yeah.
And he's like, I only pick up people that I feel an inkling, like I feel an urge to answer this request, and I go, and I know this is gonna be special.
Wow. that's pretty.
He just does it for joy, not for money. So.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like I would come home from a bar at like 3 or 4 a.m., you know. Most of the time, it would be like an Indian guy or like a guy from like Bangladesh, somewhere in that region. We would just talk because there's like a few different sort of like religious ideas. So I'm like, what do you think? They tell me their idea, and you know, we sort of talk about that.
Have you ever wanted to go to India?
I went for I was on the border. I was on the border of India, so I technically went, but only for a few hours. I really want to go and like fully go, totally. Like that seems like the like spiritual capital for me. You know.
Absolutely.
I gotta go and but I gotta be like prepared to, take on that journey. Yeah, totally. So yeah, I would like to definitely go. There's like a part of me that wants to be like a monk, type character. And I think I could be, but I don't know if I want to dedicate my life to like that kind of thing, but maybe like for like a couple of years,
Yeah.
go somewhere and like really dive
Have
into
you ever listened? There is a person. He's British, Jay Shetty, that has Indian heritage, and he went and he wanted to become a monk after he was like
What's
in
his
business. Jay Shetty.
Jay Shetty?
He was in business and realized that's like just doesn't bring him satisfaction, and so he went and stayed with monks and became a monk and had that lifestyle for a few years, and then came back to real life. And now,
Wait, was he like a Silicon Valley type guy or no? No.
but he was in like business school and
Okay.
proper things. And he's young, and he's really, and his wife Radhi is I'm sorry, names are tough for me.
Yeah.
She is also incredible, really, really funny. They're young people, and he had a book recently that came out, Think Like a Monk, and it transformed his life, but he brought that transformation into reality.
Back into his real life. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think people need to focus more on like, the balance of everything. We were talking about that. This like Japanese samurai book, which sort of like, I guess I probably didn't do a great job of explaining it, but there's like somehow like he talks about you're tending your garden as well as you're being a warrior, or you're as good of a poet as you are as a warrior. Like I'm under the belief that like all of these things is like within this balance, and as long as if I have some understanding of them, then I have some room to play. But if I don't, then I'm just like I'm in the breeze, I'm just like going with the flow, which is okay. But I also
also you can control your current. You can
sail.
Control where it's going.
Yeah, if I have a sail.
A beautiful balance of let go attitude and also building your own future.
Totally. Cool.
I think I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah.
Should we wrap this up? Is there anything that you would like to plug? You got your Instagram?
Lena's Lavender Dreams on Instagram for my
all one
to
word?
look at
it's
Lena's dot lavender dot
dreams. At Lena
Lena dot lavender dot dreams, and then Lena Mozzhelina on just my life.
Your personal.
Yeah, that's my personal
that's
stuff. I want to thank you for having me on the podcast and hosting me this weekend. I am sending lots of love to my artistic community in Portland.
Oh yeah, same. Cool.
And yeah, let's do it again.
Yes, I'm gonna come see you in Portland. You'll come back to the city.
Absolutely.
Lena, I wish we had more to thing, but we're all out of booze. Thank you very much. We'll wrap this up. Lena's Lavender Dreams. I'm gonna check out Kazim.
Kazim, yeah. Blanche, Mimi, Kazim, all the influential people that I mentioned in this podcast. I'm really grateful. And to my beautiful son, Ilya, who's almost 10, and we're also taking a trip to motherland this summer. We're going to Russia to visit my family, so big shout out to my fam.
Shout out to Russia.
Yeah.
See you soon. From Russia with love. All right, peace. We're wrapping this up. You can say it. You can wait.
Good night.